we do a roll call, sir? Mr. Clerk.
Council Noon.
Here.
Council Leahy. Here. Council Kennedy. Two present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I'm going to call the subcommittee hearing to order. My name is Mr. Noon. I'm a City Council Subcommittee Chair on Election Law. And with me, Councilor John Leahy.
Hello. How are you?
And let me do it. The idea of we coming out to neighborhood is to listen to your input with regard to our current voting system. Because we, the City Council and the subcommittee, believe that your input is key to determine whether or not change is needed, and if so, what type of change. We will delve into that later, but tonight, basically to hear your input about how you feel about our current voting system. So, this event tonight, I want to thank John Gear and the Belvedere Neighborhood Association for hosting us. But before I turn to John Gear, I have to recognize my fellow City Councilor who's here, former Mayor, City Councilor Rita was here. And City Councilor Karen Sorello. And thanks to the clerk for travel the city with us, and the election director's editor is here as well, and Matt from LTC for taking this event. Let me turn it to John Gear.
Thank you very much, Vesna. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Belvedere Neighborhood Association's June monthly meeting. I'm the president of the association, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about the BNA. The mission of the BNA is to communicate issues and news to Belvedere residents about our neighborhood and about the city of Lowell. The BNA meets on the second Wednesday of the month at 6:30 here at the Sullivan School. Our next meeting will be on September 12th, as we're taking July and August off from meetings. I want to thank the Sullivan School Administration for permitting us to meet at their school and supporting our meeting needs, including using the auditorium for tonight's meeting. Tonight we're pleased to host the listening session of the Lowell City Council Ad-Hoc Election Law Subcommittee. And the listening session tonight is the sole agenda item for tonight's meeting. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Vesna Noon.
Thank you, John. So now it's time for me to open to you, the audience or the public and the residents, as to please freely express how you feel about our current voting system. So because we don't have a cordless mic, I'm going to ask you to come up here. I'm going to turn the mic to you, and before you state how you feel, say your name so that the clerk can record your name just for a minute for the subcommittee purpose only. So please come up here. Don't be shy.
Come on, Anne-Marie, break the ice.
Anne-Marie, come on. Thank you. And then I go to Judith.
Thank you, Thank you for inviting me. My name is Anne-Marie Page. I'm the president of the Central Neighborhood Action Group, and this year I'm the president of the Citywide Neighborhood Council. I came over to find out what this is. I wasn't able to go to the last meeting, so I wanted to find what it's about. And I thought about different things I've heard, and like some say we should go to ward bosses and all that. But I spoke to somebody that lived in another city, a big city down in Boston, and they used to have ward bosses that got old. So they had ward bosses years ago. But what happens is you can almost get on a power play. So that person is fighting tooth and nail for his area, and he should. That's what we voted for him to do. Boy, when you think of it, it's better to have 9 people voting tooth and nail for what's best for all of us. If we learn to play nice and be nice, we can get more done. But I think the problem in Lowell is that people do not get up off their Kemosabe and get out and vote. Right? It's not a big job to register to vote, and it doesn't cost any money to register to vote, right? I mean, I had registered from the ICU unit in a lying down position. And I think years ago they graduated from the grave in Boston, but we won't go there, right? But honest to goodness, it's just register to vote, and when the time comes, get out to vote. There's absentee ballots, in case you decide to fly down to Florida or something, go to the moon, whatever, you can still vote, right? There's no excuse not to vote. And it's your duty. It's not just a privilege. It's your duty as a citizen to get up off that chair, get out there and vote. And people are always willing to give somebody else a ride or a lift to get over to the polls. So we have no excuses. So we want to see everybody, friends, relatives, register to vote, and on that day, mark your calendar, big red letters, get out to vote. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vesna.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Judith.
Hi, I'm Judith Durant, and I live in the Highlands. And my personal experience with the city council and all is that we never have, in the time that I've lived here, we did not ever have representation from the Highlands. Most of the councilors at that time were from Belvedere. Now there have been a few scattered into different neighborhoods. So when Jim Leary was elected, much to, I think, his chagrin, I called him and I said, okay, Jim, you're in my neighborhood. You are my councilor now. And I'm going to be calling on you when I have difficulties or any things to deal with. He helped me enormously. One, because he knew the neighborhood. He came over to my house on a Sunday afternoon, and we walked around for 4 hours talking about the difficulties in our neighborhood, and we didn't even go anywhere near the lower Highlands, where we have an ethnic population. This was just here. He eventually got the help of John Leahy to take care of my double poles and that kind of stuff. But it did me a world of good to know that there was someone in the neighborhood that I could talk to about issues. Yes, it's our responsibility to vote. It is our duty to vote. Unfortunately, that's not being taught in the schools anymore. So I grew up knowing that there were 2 things that I could do in this world to make a difference. I can vote and I can sit on a jury. And those are the 2 things where I can, and I learned that in school, and kids are not learning that anymore. And those that come from a whole different situation, which we can't even imagine, who came here as refugees, they haven't seen too much representation in Lowell at this point from their communities. We have Vesna on the council now, we had Ridley Young at one point, but other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot of ethnic representation. So I think that there might be a feeling of uphill battle. I can't speak for those communities because I'm not a member, but I do have friends in those communities, and I think there is a sense of an uphill battle. So I don't know, we have 11 wards in Lowell. There's no way we can go to having 11 ward bosses and a few others. But our government in every other area is set up that we are represented by districts. We have our representatives going down to Washington as congresspeople. We do all have just 2 senators from every state, but we send people from our district to Beacon Hill as well. And I don't think that yes, they go and fight for things for their particular neighborhood, but I believe that everyone there also is fighting for the whole Commonwealth. And those that go to Washington are fighting for the country, not just their state. So I think some kind of mix between neighborhood representation, I don't know how we do that, and at large could work for the city. That's my...
Thank you, Judith. Speaking of civic education, the last public hearing that we had at Wayne School, that was brought up as well. And last night, Councilor Kennedy filed a motion so that encouraged the school department, the school committee to have start thinking about that at the high school. So motion was filed last night and going through, so the school committee and the school department picked that up as well. So yes, it's a great point. Speaking of, Councilor Kennedy is here. See, I didn't see him coming in, so I'm talking about him. I'm sorry. So he filed that motion. So anybody else? Debbie?
Okay, therefore, Jamie from Pawtucketville. So we had Centerville, we have the Highlands and Pawtucketville. So I did have a voice the other night, but I did want to come here and kind of just repeat what my concerns were, everyone needs to be registered to vote. And as a neighborhood group in Pawtucketville, we're finding in many cases people coming to us with issues who want a voice that are not registered to vote. So we think that the city and the neighborhoods and the residents should make a big push to get registered voters. Now, to having registered voters doesn't mean they're going to come out and vote. So when you have to think about, well, what makes people vote? Well, something that they feel passionate about. And they're just going to say one more thing. When it comes to Pawtucketville, we've had some major issues. We've had the dam, that biggest issue we have over there, flooding. That brings people out because it's something that affects their everyday life. And just to tell you, it is exhausting to be part of a neighborhood group. I can't tell you how many nights we have to go out, sit there. I've been to meetings that go to 12:30 at night. A lot of times I really don't feel like it. But if you're going to have a voice, you have to. So it is tough to work and have a family and to go to these meetings. But if you don't go to the meetings and you don't know what's going on in your neighborhood, how can you have a voice? So to have it so that you have one person in your ward that's going to speak for you, when right now you have 9 people, and maybe there's somebody like you like Jim Larry, but what if you didn't like him? That's what you got.
I didn't say I like
No, I'm just saying that. If you don't, what happens is, I've been in a community that's what they had. And so I love the fact that there are 9 counselors that I can go to on any given issue and have someone that will listen to me. So I like the way that we do it. I just think that people should understand that you have to be registered to vote and you have to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Anybody else? Please come on up.
Hi, I'm Helen Littlefield. I live here down the street. I grew up in the Highlands. My family always voted. I do like having the 9 for council, citywide council, as much as Deb said. I would be open to some kind of combination though. But I am afraid that if we went to complete ward, that the city would be fractured. It was bad enough. I won't go there. It can happen. It did happen. And I think that if it was further divided, perhaps it would be worse. And as we saw with the referendum, it turned out that more people did come out, those who did vote, who felt passionate about it, did come out and vote, say, for the referendum this year, this past year. But I would be open to a combination.
Thank you. Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Councillor Edward Kennedy and Jim Larry for coming out. And Rita was here. John Lady, sorry. You're on the slide. That's what they say. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got confused with Vesna a lot. So when people say, oh, we really support you and Vesna, and I would just nod and politely say thank you and move on my way. So I get a lot in Market Basket, but my name is Paul Ratayam, and I live at 98 Mount Vernon Street in the Acre. I've been here, my family and I have been here over 30 years, and I ran for Lowell City Council twice, and also as a 18 Middlesex State Rep once. And I know how difficult it is. My wife 3 months in the Belvedere because we know that's where the rich vote neighborhood. And the second time around, we spent similar amount of time, but it is very difficult because, just what I look like. I'm not from the neighborhood, so I walk knocking at the door. In one instance, it's around dinner time, about 6 o'clock, around this time of the night, and I walk by one of the neighbor home in the Belvedere. The family were having dinner, and they saw us come in, and they kind of waved, us off because they were having dinner. And I understand, I did not take it personally, so we moved on. The system that we have is difficult for newcomers such as myself to really make a dent into the system. You know why? Because the neighborhood like Belvedere, generation of people grew up here, know each other, have extended family and friends, went to school together and everything. And I understand that. If you flip it the other way around, you from Belvedere go to Cambodia and you go to neighborhood, people may not know you as well. I understand that. So therefore, I would love to see representation, a combination of ward, district representation, and also at large, similar to the city of Lynn. The city of Lynn has a similar kind of system that creating the at large and then a ward. I understand you may not agree, but for me, if I live in the acres, I've been there for 30 years, I know a lot of people in the Belvedere. If I do not know, people know who I was. So if I'm running as a district representation, I would not have any difficulty in getting my neighbor to support because they know who we are. Their children and our children go to the same, soccer team, soccer field and all of that. I understand. And that's why I would love to see the system as a combination of the district representation and at large. And I thank you, Councillor Nguyen, for taking initiative and organize the meeting from different neighborhood group. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Don't be shy.
Lynn has a mayor form of government that's not like Lowell.
Right.
Lowell will probably operate a lot more better than they have.
Oh.
Taking how diverse the city is.
Well,
So.
would you please come up and speak?
See, the thing is that with me, I'm just new to all this because growing up, I was always very hesitant.
Okay, would you, hang on. Would you please come up here and
No, I
say,
think I speak loud enough from here.
okay,
Everybody can hear me.
please state your name then.
My name is Michelle Rivera.
Okay.
Born and raised in Lowell. I'm a native of Lowell, Massachusetts, and I grew up in the acre. Okay? See, the problem here is that a lot of people don't understand what is going on behind the politics or what it all means. But it's not because they don't necessarily care or they don't want to. Some of them have language barriers, which in Lowell has been going on for generations. It's not just now. Because everybody in Lowell comes from a different background, a different culture. That's not today, that's been existing forever. Okay? So clearly, if things don't change, it's because things are not being done according to the benefit of all. It's just for the benefit of some. Okay? So my intake, after I speak to so many people, the problem is, how is everything being translated to everyone? How much publicity is being given, in all fairness, to everyone? And being that there is such a diversity in the city, how is it that every zip code has a group for every area to discuss whatever it is that's going on in every neighborhood, but every neighborhood doesn't know about everything that's going on, only if you have a passion for it or you're interested in it. Where is the publicity for those things? Where's the translations for those things? And if you do register, are things really going to change if you do vote when there's so much hypocrisy behind the politic? Because things don't really change. So I think that there is a fine line here where a lot of people that try to speak up still get shut, the door still gets shut in their face. So, I mean, the bottom line is that I believe a huge combination is needed and required in the city. And on top of that, maybe they should void all the way the process is going and consider a mayor. Because clearly a lot of things don't change because they're applying the same thing every time. You can't get change if you're gonna do the same thing all the time. I mean, that's common sense. Everyone says it all the time. If you want different results, you gotta do things differently. So for years, I was like, I'm not even gonna bother because I ain't have anything that's gonna change. But for the past few years, I'm starting to become a little bit more concerned. Because there's a lot of things that are not changing. And there's a lot of things that benefit these city employees or the politicians. And there's politicians that I don't even know nothing about Lowell or the culture of Lowell. They come from other towns and move in Lowell, and then they put their chin up to everybody in Lowell. How come the people from Lowell don't get to meet them or have a say about it? There's people that belong in these seats, and don't even get the opportunity because of all the hypocrisy behind the politics to begin with. So I have a lot to say, but I probably need a lot more to learn to come back and probably take somebody's seat someday.
Thank you very much. You certainly spoke with passion. What you said,
Everybody's concerned about Belvedere. We should be concerned about Belvedere. That school should go in Belvedere.
Right. That's why we bring the listening sessions to each and every neighborhood. This council, this subcommittee do care, do listen, and certainly you spoke with passion, and thank you for coming out and thank you for speaking.
They act like I'm not discriminating because they're being soft about it, but they are very discriminating.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else like to share or give your input or share your feeling about the current voting system? Come on, don't be shy. John?
I'm John Gear. I am from Belvedere, but I'm a Lowell, and I've only been here for 31 years. I'm still learning about the city. I think I come down on this issue in alignment with what Deb Forgione had mentioned, and that is people need to get out and vote. You can't make changes unless you vote. You need to be informed. And I also support Councilor Kennedy's notion of civics classes for high school, even middle school students, so they understand how the system works, that you have to go out and vote, let your voice be heard. I think the opportunity to reach out to 9 city councilors versus 1 that represents a neighborhood, and maybe a few at-large councilors is a better approach. And if people want change, they need to vote change, get more involved, come to meetings. I agree there's a lot we can do to reach out to people, to educate, but I'm in favor of staying with the status quo and getting more participation from our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else? All right. Councilor Kennedy.
Can I just ask one question? There are just 4 communities, 4 cities in Massachusetts that have city manager form of government, and all the rest of the cities have a mayor. How many people think that we should have a mayor, or that we should consider having a strong mayor in Lowell instead of a city manager? How many people like city manager government? Okay, nice. Just curious.
May I comment on that?
Yes.
You say that statement because of what I stated. So in my defense and in the defense of many other people that believe what I believe, and I'll say it now. See, the problem with that is that you're gonna have the same people defending you. But let's go out and educate everybody. Let's go out there and educate, because that is a concern in this city, and we can't keep hiding that and covering it up. We can't. If we go out there and educate everybody in all fairness and in an equal platform, okay, then come back and ask that once everybody's registered and voted, and then there's change, and then come back and ask that. You're asking the same people at the same time because everything is geared towards what is convenient for them today now. You see? So there's a fine line to answer that.
Okay, I did not ask the question because of what you said. I've brought up the same subject before for this reason, basically, is that I think if we had all district councilors, we need to have a strong mayor. I don't think it would work well to have all district councilors and have a city manager government for this reason. You could end up in a situation where the district councilors that are on the south side of the river would all band together and elect the city manager and shut out the district councilors on the north side of the river, which would be Centerville and Pawtuckettville. I'm not saying that's what would happen, but you can see where something like that could happen. And if you're the city manager, you're going to pay attention to whatever the majority is. So if a majority of district councilors band together, they would be able to shut out a part of the city, which doesn't really happen now since every city council represents the whole city. And from a city council's point of view, a vote in the acre is worth the exact same amount as a vote in Belvedere.
According to whom, I'm sorry?
Well, it just is. A vote in, you count the
So
votes.
if I live in an acre, I can go vote for someone that I might have a passion for in the Belvedere area?
Yes.
Or in the Centerville or vice versa, because according to what I understood from the last time, was that I have to go where I,
No, you vote. You vote in your neighborhood. Everybody votes in their neighborhood so that it will be convenient for them. But you vote on people that live all over the city. So, for instance, in the last election, and I've mentioned this a couple of times before, in the last election, there were 3 candidates that were running in Centerville. And Centerville does not have a city council, but they had an opportunity to have 3. If they all came out and voted, and if they all voted for their 3 candidates, then their 3 candidates stood a good chance. And if they were to elect 3 city councils from Centerville, then 1/3 of the whole city council would have been from Centerville. But that didn't happen. What happened is they elected one of the 3, which is City Council Karen Cirillo. The other 2 were not successful. But people in Centerville didn't just vote for the candidates in Centerville, they chose other candidates instead that lived in other parts of the city. And I would suspect that some of those candidates were from Belvedere. But I also would suspect that some were from Pawtuckettville or from the Highlands as well. But if you go and vote, you get to vote for all 9 city councils, not just a city council from your neighborhood.
I also want to recognize Mayor Samaras is here with us. He's probably finished feeding his grandchildren dinner. So that's why he's here afterward. Thank you for being here, Mayor. Councilor Cirillo, want to say something?
Good evening, everyone. I'm City Councilor Karen Cirillo. I am from Centerville. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. I am 100% in support of Councilor Kennedy's motion that he put on yesterday. And the reason why I am in support of this is because when the students in the high school go to this class, they're going to go home and they're going to talk to their families about it. And it's education. And then those families are going to go out and they're going to talk to their neighbors, and the neighbors are going to talk to their community. And I feel that it has this wonderful spider web or snowball effect that it will eventually get throughout, it'll get some information out through the city. And there are a couple of things that we as city councilors do, or as trying to become city councilors. We go to debates throughout the whole city. We go to debates in Pawtuckettville, in Belvedere, in the Acre, in Centerville, all over, all in the Highlands, all throughout the city, because we want the city to know us, and we want to know the city. We want to have that communication with the residents. It's very important for us to know that we are available to the residents, and that to have the residents know and understand that you are important to us. So And there is also another thing that we do is there's Lowell Votes, and they are a nonpartisan group here in Lowell, and they work very hard, and they ask us some very tough and pertinent questions for the whole city. And there's, I don't even know, something like 15 questions, and they are translated into Khmer and Spanish, and they get that out in as many ways as they can, because we as city councilors, we want to answer those questions so that the city can get to know us. So there's a couple of different things that are happening and that we're dedicated to. So that's important for everyone to know. And you also have, right here, you have a city councilor from Centerville, you have a city councilor from the Highlands, you have city councilors from Belvedere. So, and we have 2 women and a Cambodian. So there are things that are happening and changes, and your voices are heard throughout the city. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Who holds all these meetings? Are they made, how is it that they're made to the public how is the public being informed about all of these meetings in the group, the community, and overall throughout the entire city? How are all those public meetings, hearings, and debates, how are they being publicized? How does everybody know about them? Because last time we went on Facebook for Pawtucketville, I said I was going, and I did go, and it was deleted from Facebook. Somebody removed it. They made it public, and then they removed it. Someone else said, well, maybe everyone should visit the meetings in their own community, like in their own neighborhood. What's up with that?
Well, no, the meetings are distributed through the neighborhood groups, and I think they're also on the Lowell Sun website.
So they are being published?
They are, yes, absolutely they are.
So that everyone is aware.
Right, exactly. And if you're a resident of Pawtucketville and we're having a debate in Pawtucketville, and you live in Belvedere, you can go to that debate, because the debates are also different subjects. So we never had the same, right, we never had the same subject for every debate. It was always something different that was pertinent to the city, not just the community, but the city and the residents. So, do you have any other questions?
No, I just needed to know because a lot of people ask me these questions.
Right.
I live in a zip code.
Oh, yes.
So I can go where anyone, and I probably understand everything that's going on and keep in share about. But I've started to become a little bit more interested and have more passion for it.
Right.
Because of the simple fact that I still believe that there's a lot of areas that are still overlooked and neglected.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see what I can learn, and maybe what I learn, I can apply to help the ones that are being neglected.
Right. And your passion is important, and it's good. It's good for your community. So I would say keep that up and continue it and be an advocate. So thank you.
I want to recognize the school committee member, Dominic Lay, just arrived, he's back there, just got our school committee meeting. He has a very good reason for being late because they had a school committee meeting tonight. So thank you for coming up. Oh, they canceled, all right. So, anybody else like to speak on this? Please come up.
Hi, my name is Laura Gilmore. I just wanted to follow a little bit on what was just said. I'm sorry, I can't remember what your name was.
Me?
Yes.
Michelle.
What Michelle said, which is that I can speak as a newer Lowell resident and say that sometimes it is not easy to find out what's going on. And sometimes people who are in the know may not be thinking in the same way that people who are newer or are not as connected are thinking. And so I just hope that part of this process is also thinking about ways to increase access and increase ease of access to government. I've only lived in Lowell for about 2 years, but I can say that for me, some of the biggest challenges were figuring out how to even contact city councilors, finding out that when you go to the website and hit the contact your city councilor email, it's a fairly limited text box. So if you actually want to send a comment of any substance, you'd have to send it multiple times, or you'd have to know enough to know what people's contact information is privately. So that's one thing where, that might just be an easy fix. I also have found that I was a little surprised by how hard it is to go to a city council meeting and speak. You have to kind of know the process. You have to register in advance. So that feels like a little bit of a barrier to entry. And so if there are ways to open up that process so someone could go and listen in, and if something comes up, then you might also increase access there.
Thank you very much. Great input.
Thank you. I just checked with the clerk. You can register, just to be sure that I was correct, you can register to speak at a city council meeting right up until the meeting. So as long as you show up a couple of minutes before, you can, and if there's a public hearing, you don't even have to be registered. For public hearings, anybody can speak. But if I could, we've had several of these meetings so far.
Can I just clarify that just slightly? You have to sign up to register to speak. That's something on the agenda.
Oh, right, that's right.
Something on the agenda,
Yeah.
because otherwise, it needs to be something
could get out of
that has to be on the agenda, which are usually pretty extensive.
If I, go ahead.
Can I just clarify on that? I appreciate that, and I think that's really helpful. It was just it's a little confusing to figure out. And I do think if there are ways to make that easier, it makes it easier if someone wants to go and listen in and isn't quite sure what an item is about, to then jump in.
Well, if you looked and you couldn't find it, then maybe what we need to do is do a better job of telling people how that gets done. We might think we're doing fine, but that doesn't always mean that we are doing fine, is what I think happens a lot of times. If I just could, on these meetings, we've had, this is, I think, the second one we've had in the neighborhoods. So in order to have the meetings, in order to try to reach out, what we've done is had a couple of meetings so far in the neighborhoods. We had one in Pawtuckville, this one's in Belvedere. In addition to that, and we'll have meetings in some of the other neighborhoods, and in addition to that, we had one that was hosted by the Coalition for a Better Acre, and one that was hosted by the CMAA. And at the meeting in Pawtuckville, after the meeting concluded, I ended up having a conversation with 3 Latino ministers, and they're going to put together a meeting, probably that will be comprised of their congregations. And so that's something that I think the chairman's going to add to the schedule, and I think we're going to just keep on. We've got several more meetings scheduled, right?
I think the idea of this listening session on election law, coming out to every neighborhood and every group as possible, should also carry on other issues too, not just on election law. Mention of access and learn about how the city council is run and operate, what the role of the council and all that. That too need to be, the branding of it is going to be low listen on election, low listen on public safety, low listen on other things that you about to talk about. And those are some of the things that we're working toward, and at least I'm going to work with other councilors to make sure that access, make sure that we hear from everyone as possible. This is not the only meeting. Councilor Kennedy indicated that this is the 4th listening session we are on. The next one is going to be on at either LTC or maybe City Hall and Centerville and the Back Central as well. And so Councilor Kennedy indicated that the Latino pastors, the ministers, going to put together one. Well, we should do that as well. So it is no limit to it because that's the idea that the mayor brought up when he was, he spoke about one inclusion. Diversity is great, right? Someone said being invited to a party, right? But
You have to do more than that. Inclusion is being asked to dance, and that's what we all wanted. That's what we have in the city, diversity.
Well, the city's full, that is.
Exactly. So that said, we're working toward it. We're working toward it. I can assure you that. I mean, you have that in the mayor and all the councilor here. Councilor Mercia, come on.
Yes, good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Rita Mercia. I know many of you here probably didn't vote for me. That's okay. We had a difference, but I'm still here anyway, and I'm still fighting for what I believe in, because it isn't about that I'm right and you're wrong. It's about we all have opinions, and I respect that. I'm here this evening because I think that what the subcommittee is going around to different places in the city, different neighborhoods, is to find out, are you happy with the type of government we have being 9 city councilors at large? Or do you want to change that to make district representation for people like, let's say, in the acre that are Spanish or whatever, and they don't have a great opportunity to probably be heard, as you're hearing Michelle saying it? Is that what you want? My personal opinion is that I like what we have now, 9 city councilors, but my mind isn't set on that. It's open to discussion. That's why I want to hear what people want, because although I may have a difference of opinion, the majority rules. And in my personal opinion, I'd like to see it as a ballot question, to see what everybody wants that comes out to vote as to, because to me, if, for example, the marijuana situation, it went to a question. I didn't support it, but it won. So I have no choice but to support what we're doing in the city council to set up areas of where that could be harvested or different cultivated or whatever. That's what the rules are all about. That's what the law is all about. So I'm here this evening to say and hear what your opinion is. And I thought to myself, how can they convince me otherwise? And I think someone had convinced me at one of the meetings in that they said, I live in the acre. There's really nobody there that represents me. I like to go to my neighborhood person that lives there and tell them my problems. I don't feel comfortable calling you or calling someone that lives in Pawtuckettville or someone that lives in Centerville. I want to relate to someone in my own neighborhood. For that reason alone, I think there's a possibility there. So that may make me change my mind, but it isn't about what I feel. I have beliefs, but it's open for discussion, and that's why I'm here this evening. As far as the motion that Ed Kennedy had, which was wonderful, that I think that the kids should learn about voting in school. I think that's very, very important. On occasion, city councilors are asked to go to different classrooms to talk about what is it like to be a city councilor? What is it like to have been the mayor? How do you go about registering to vote? What is that all about? And we give some sort of a civics class to let them know what it's all about, and I always enjoyed that. I don't think that I could stand here tonight and tell you, although I'd love to tell you all about the rules and the laws and can I register to speak on an item. You can do that right at the minute before the meeting starts. Come over to a city councilor, and I've done it many a time, to go to Rick Johnson or to Michael Gary and say, can we register this person to speak on this particular issue? It's as simple as that. People probably don't even know that a city councilor makes a motion. What we have for the public is, you make a motion too. Anybody in this room can call up the city clerk and say, on the next meeting on Tuesday, I want to make a motion. We call it a petition. I particularly don't like that word, because to me petition means you got to get signatures, and you really don't, so it's kind of misleading. But we call it a petition, and you just call the city clerk and you do that. There's a lot of things you don't know, but the reason being is you have to get involved to know. I wouldn't have, how I started out was in my own neighborhood, we had problems, and we set up a neighborhood meeting. Oh my God, probably before you were born, that's how old I am, but it was back then, and we did it at the Malloy School and the church. And we went down into the basement of Notre Dame Village Church, and we had our neighborhood group meetings. I think Ann Welcome in Pawtucketville did the first, and I think the Lower Highlands neighborhood group did the second. And it was funny because we'd have people come in and they'd have problems. The minute we solved their problem, they'd leave. You'd never see them again. They didn't stick around to help the next person and the next person. It wasn't really fair. You can't make people vote. You can't make people get involved. Someone like you that is like an activist and passionate, you will set yourself up to learn these things. That's what it's all about. I could talk to you all night long because this is a very passionate subject for me. We do have a website. We're not asking you to be bored to listen to a city council meeting to know what's going on, but you can learn what's going on the city website. Who do I call? There's brochures that are out. You can come to City Hall and write on Shauna's desk in the information part. You can pick up this beautiful diagram of if you have a tree problem, call this number. If you have a trash barrel, because nobody knows that, but we have the information available. Nobody's trying to hide anything from anybody. We're trying to be as transparent as can be. I know that you could be anywhere else tonight and you chose to be here. It goes without saying that you're very devoted to what you do and you believe in it. So I admire you just as much as if you were a city councilor, but you spread that word to everybody else in your neighborhood. That's a good thing. I have the greatest respect and praise for neighborhood group leaders. It's not an easy thing. There are designated eyes and ears in the neighborhood. They tell us what's going on, and all the city councilors are messengers. I'm only a messenger. You give me a problem and I bring a message to City Hall. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here this evening, to listen to your message on how you believe this should be run. We have Etta Matchuk. She's our city election officer. She's second to none, unbelievable. And this was the first time in the history of probably the country that she has put out the ballot in numerous languages. She has had interpreters of many ethnic backgrounds at the different polling places. For anybody to say we're discriminating, gee, please don't ever say that. We have 20 flag raising ceremonies a year. We're very, very rich in the city. We're not rich in money, but we're rich in ethnic diversity. We respect people here. We may not agree, but we do respect. My father was an immigrant. He came to this country from another land. I saw the pride in his ethnic background, and I cherish that for others that came here too. So, I mean, I could talk all night long, but I won't. I'm sorry, but if you have a question, we're at large. Give us a call. We'll do the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Paul.
Quick questions. Is there a way someone can register online to speak instead of going in person or going on that day? That would be helpful.
You can email me, you can call me, you can come in and see me, any way you want to do it.
Mike, the clerk just said that you can call, you can email, and you can call me too, right? You have my cell phone. No, I'm just kidding. For those, there are a lot of people out there who do not have the councilor cell phone or email, and that I understand very well the access, and especially when you have a language barrier. That too is factored into a lot of things. So I do hear you on those notes. So Mayor Samaras, you have to come up here. You can take your time. We have till 8 o'clock. So
You wouldn't come up to me? No.
No, I just want to thank you.
I want to thank everybody for being here, but you can see the excitement that fellow councils have for what we're supposed to do. But I've been going to a lot of the meetings, and one thing I've gotten out of many meetings is a lot of people are asking for information, just information. And we plan to release a mayor's newsletter by July. The biggest issue is how many languages we can translate it in. But if you want to see a good example of a mayor's newsletter,
go to Haverhill. Mayor Ferrantino in Haverhill has done a very good job in getting the information out. Everybody knows every Tuesday the school committee, the city council meets. Every other Wednesday the school committee meets, and we're on TV. You can see us on TV. But sometimes you don't have that opportunity. But through the newsletter, what we hope to do is print out what has happened, what some of the issues are, and what concerns you might have. And we also intend, once the newsletter starts, get them out to the neighborhood groups and get them out to various ethnic groups so they can make sure that they're passed about in their own language or certain ways. Because everybody doesn't have a computer. We're going to go on the website, Facebook, and we're going to be doing things. I'm not sure what we're going to be doing. I just know I have people to be able to get it done. But it's important, and that's what we're looking for. And by the way, they're here not because of the case against the city regarding voting. The subcommittee was made up to look at the voting as we have it in the city, and to look at ourselves if we need to change the process. This is not being mandated by the courts. This is being mandated by the Lowell City Council. It's the right thing to do. And when Vice Mayor Hesselman talked about what do we expect, we want to make sure that every group in this city feels that they have a voice. And that's our purpose. Everybody should have a voice. Ethnic groups and other groups. There are many groups in this city, social, economic, whatever, neighborhood groups. But do they feel that they have a voice? That's what's important to us. It's simple. But the biggest thing that I hope to do in my office is provide information. That's what everybody wants, and that's what everybody needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll get to you in a minute. Thank you, Mayor. Very happy to hear about the mayor's newsletter. I hope it's come from the mayor budget, right? It's going to cost money. I hope. Student.
Since Mayor Samaras brought it up, can you just quickly tell us what the status is of the lawsuit? I know that a lawsuit has been filed against the city, and you can't talk about it?
Okay.
Right. The idea of coming out here is to listen on that, and so the lawsuit is pending, and that's all we know. But we here really when the mayor talking about voice, we're talking about voice on this issue, on how you feel about the current voting system. A voice on this issue. This voice on a lot of other things that we need to do better on as well. So voice on other things we need to do better as a city. So, but the voice coming out to every neighborhood is voice on this issue, how you feel. As far as the lawsuit is pending, we are not here on that to talk about that, really. All right. Did you?
Hi, yes. I just wanted to reiterate that if you're having trouble contacting one of us, most of us have public websites. I have a very public website that I post a lot on, and so and then you also have the city email. And so if, say for example, you message me on my website and you say, right, I don't want to speak to you, Councilor Cirillo, I want Councilor Mercier. I will, since we are all very connected and we have each other's information and each other's cell phones, I will get you in contact with Councilor Mercier. So we're all very engaged and we keep in contact with each other, we work together, we're dedicated to the city as a team. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
Thank
you. So tonight is a good listening session, and what Councilor Cirillo brought up too. If you're not familiar with the city website, you can go on and you can click on which councilor you want to speak to. If if you want to speak to all of us, plus the manager's office, or just individual, you can do that too. But you're right, maybe what you were saying, Michelle, sometimes you can't get this information easy. And I know that a few years ago, when I was out of the loop, I had lost the city council election, so I was about 8 months out, and I was just working and involved with my family, and I didn't have time to really read the paper, and I wasn't in the social group anymore, and I didn't get a lot of information. And it's a little bit of work to get out there and get the information. So, but today we're kind of, the paper's so thin, local radio station, do you trust Facebook? Do you trust the tweets? So it's a tough spot where to get you good information from today. So, but make sure, you visit the website, the city website. You should be able to navigate that and speak to anybody that you need. And someone brought up, maybe Council Mercier, you can go into City Hall. Manager Murphy created an information desk right in the front, and Sean is very helpful. That's a big thing that's recently happened. And, I think just trying to get people informed, whether it's through church groups, neighborhood groups, your neighbors, through the schools. And quite frankly, some people are just very busy and they don't have the time to get involved. But we appreciate everyone that comes out, like this group and all the other groups. And they are small, but sometimes people show up, they have an issue, they let us know about it. I think all 9 of us really are out throughout the whole city to do what we can. Former Mayor Patrick Murphy was a good example of that. He didn't raise, I don't think he raised any money, and he was out, he did very well. I don't know if he raised that money, I don't think he did, but he was out walking and talking, and that's how he got elected. And sometimes you put all that effort in, and it doesn't pay off, well, you try again, and that's all you can do. But you can be guaranteed that I think in the city of Lowell, if you speak up, the 9 councilors or the 6 school committee people will hear your voice. So I just wanted to add that, and I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you.
Anybody out in the audience? Anybody out in the audience like to? Nancy?
I'm Nancy Pitkin, and yes, I live in Belvedere. I would like to say a little bit more about what Jim just said. When city councilors show up at a neighborhood meeting, you get to know them, but that means you have to show up at the neighborhood meeting. And I really appreciate the fact that I know that Bill and Jim and they've all attended Belvedere meetings. John.
All right, Mary.
All right. You've done that to me before, too. John. And I know that. So I think it really does make a difference to get involved in your local neighborhood group, because that's how you get a lot of information. And I also think, Mayor Samaras, you need to give James Ostis a big plug for his Room 50 stuff, because that's fantastic. He's doing a really, really good job on that.
We're getting it.
You're getting it, huh? Well, you can put that in your mayor's newsletter.
Thank you, Nancy. Anybody else? No? That's it. From the election office, thank you again for putting this neighborhood group meeting together. We do not know, the nearest one is, I believe, July 12th, Centerville. No, in West Central. See, this is the thing, John, Council Lady and Council Kennedy. We really ever have a difficult time because we come out to our neighborhood not on our term, on the term of the neighborhood, the time that they're available. It's so hard to do that, so we have to make sure that their time meet us. We meet their time, not they meet our time, so we're willing to do that. So I'll wait from adults for the next closed hearing. So as soon as we get it, we reach out to all the nonprofit and neighborhood group to inform you of the next the close working close listening session, so that you can bring friends and family and again tell us how you feel about the current voting system. Paul, go ahead.
May I add something to what Councilor Kennedy said about the Latino churches? Churches play a very important role in our city. Cambodians have also churches as well, in addition to the temple. Maybe part of the listening may be held at the different temples or churches in different segments of the city. That's just an additional work for you and the rest of the council, but that's part of the information gathering.
I think the subcommittee is more than willing, though. I mean, Councilor Kennedy and Councilor Leahy has been to all the, just about all the listening session and more to come. So that said, I want to entertain motions to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you again. Thank you, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, John, from the Belvedere Neighborhood Association. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you.